So there you have it. Now, the 43rd ASEAN Summit has just over last Thursday, anchored by the theme of ASEAN Epicentrum of Growth. Now, Indonesia's leadership has enhanced the association's role in global arena. Now, the successful summit has also included lunch and gala dinner, which featured local cuisines for the leaders of ASEAN and other heads of states. Now, here with us, Chef Degan.
Yes, Chef Degan, congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you.
For those successful culinary events.
Thank you.
That was enjoyed by the state leaders and heads of delegates at the ASEAN Summit.
Yes.
How did you feel to be involved in such a mammoth project, if I may say so, for a culinary team?
Of course, you're honored. First, you're honored that you're thought about and that you can join such an event, right? But actually, in the beginning, I was not even. I was on holidays. I didn't know that I should join this event. So I was on holidays. I was called when I was in holidays. And then when I was about to fly back, I was bombarded with messages and all that. And then when I reached Jakarta, then I was right away called for meetings. We went on meetings. Chef Arnold and myself, Chef Arnold was organizing everything, right? So I was briefed, what to do, because they had basically two big events. One was the gala dinner and one was the spouse program at Taman Mini, which is basically away from the place where everything happened that was in the Senayan area, right? So they asked me whether I could take care of the place at Taman Mini because they wanted somebody who is senior, has worked things like this before and basically left alone to do the entire thing. Everybody was concentrating on the gala dinner, right? And I was briefed that it was a very, very important event, right? Because Ibu Iriana Joko Widodo was basically hosting the entire event with all the other ladies of the heads of states. And it was very challenging, but it was very exciting as well.
What was the biggest challenge, Chef?
I think the biggest
program.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is that you had to. It was a theme, right? The epicentrum of growth, right? And then the venue played a big role. You're in Taman Mini, so you have to think of Indonesia. It has to be an Indonesian dish.
That's right.
Yet you have to bring the Indonesian food to another level, to an international level. Right? I can say that. Before, also every state dinner, usually you have Indonesian food, right? But this time, it was Indonesian food with a different twist. Like the cuisine was still original in its flavor and taste, but the presentation, the texture were all into international standards now with all these young, talented chefs we have in this country. And it was about time that we did, and they show played everything at that time at this event.
Indonesian dish with a different twist.
With a different twist, a modern twist, but yet original.
So authentic Indonesian flavors, but elevated into international fine dining level.
Exactly, and you do that because you have to use Western skills. You have to use Western cooking techniques. You have to cook your protein to a certain level, not overcook it, and that basically raised the entire image and quality of the food, right? Was very nice.
Was that actually one of the brief you received at that first meeting that you mentioned before, that you need to present Indonesian food in that sort of spectacle that they belong in a fine dining and international level?
Yes, that was the message. That was the message basically. They wanted to bring Indonesian food up, and it was time. I mean, it is. We have all the resources. We have all the talents, and to do it. And I think it was a great platform to do it. And of course, it's a challenge for everyone, right? Because you have to do this, and when you have so many eyes looking at you, it sometimes get a little bit nervous. You get nervous, but,
it can be a bit daunting,
it is what it is, you know. And you just concentrate to what you do, and the guys did a really great job on it.
How do you decide on cooking what kind of meals the spouses?
So many options, right? When it comes to Indonesian food. Yeah, how do you choose?
That's a good question. That's a good question. First of all, what we have to do is we have to ask for the dietary restriction of all the participants, right? First, I was asking for that. So when I got it, you can see the likes and dislikes of all the members that joined the dinner. the lunch or the dinner,
Or the
right?
dinner, yeah.
And we had to work out on their menu. And then in my case, because it was all ladies, and then it was a lunch, basically a early lunch.
Okay.
It was like a brunch time,
Brunch time.
right?
Okay.
So meaning I had to think that they just had breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of refreshments along the way until they come to the venue, right?
Okay.
And then I had to think of a menu that is light, fresh,
Okay.
healthy,
Healthy.
Yeah.
and yet very Indonesian, right? So I had to choose
hard.
all these factors, right?
yeah.
And then we came up with a nice menu.
Okay.
We refined it after a couple of tastings, right? And I listened also. You, as a chef, you have to listen what people, when they try the food, you have to listen because it's very important, right?
Okay.
And then to make some refined changes, and then we had the menu.
Okay. So we heard a behind the scenes story about one of the tasting
Yes.
events where they couldn't decide between two appetizers, if I'm not mistaken, between an
Yes, yes.
appetizer and a soup.
Yes.
And then maybe you can tell us the story
Yeah.
yourself, chef, please.
Yes. It was like this. All the dishes, all the set menus in all the events
Yeah.
were designed to have only 3 courses:
Three
Okay.
courses.
appetizer, main course, dessert.
Okay.
So I proposed appetizer, main course, dessert,
Yeah.
right? For the appetizers, I proposed sayur urap with scallops.
Nice.
Right? And for main course was ikan baramundi or ikan kakap
Yeah.
putih,
Yeah.
with dabu-dabu, with
Dabu-dabu.
sambal dabu-dabu.
Oh,
right?
that's
Delish.
refreshing.
And for dessert, it was a es degan.
As Degan.
Nice.
Just like your name.
It was all very Indonesian,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So all very Indonesian.
Yeah.
And then there was one comment of one of the ladies that joined the tasting. She
Okay.
said, "Can we give an option of a soup and then decide maybe whether it fits or not?"
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I looked at the directory restriction, and there was one participant who didn't want to have a creamy soup. They didn't like coconut milk or
Okay.
cream, right?
Okay.
So it has to be a clear soup. So I made a consomme out of sop buntut. So we
Oh.
made a sop buntut based on a
Okay.
sop buntut. We made a consomme out of it.
Yes.
So it looks fine.
Yes.
And then we added in. I mean, for them to try and to
Yeah.
decide which one.
Okay.
And nobody could make a decision. And then they said, why don't you just incorporate it in the 3-course menu so it becomes a 4-course menu?
wow.
Oh, wow.
But then there comes an additional challenge because
Okay.
there was a time limit
Yes.
to serve the food, right? So
Yeah.
we had
True.
to really quickly serve
Okay.
these 2
Yeah.
appetizers in the beginning, first and second course, very quick.
Yes.
So you are within that timeline,
Okay.
right? So,
Yes.
but it managed and they all liked it, and that's the most important
They
thing.
couldn't say no to
couldn't say no.
the consomme. No, no.
Well, your soup, nice
This stays
broth.
in.
Yeah, so buntut is the
Now, you mentioned about the timeline of the ladies eating.
Yes.
Now, what about your own timeline, chef?
Yeah.
Walk us through your day at the lunch.
Yes.
lunch
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First, we had like 3 tastings before we actually came to the D-Day,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And we were actually preparing half of the items before. I was working together with the Dharma Bangsa Hotel. They were doing the
Okay.
service, but I did the preparation in their kitchen as well. So we were preparing half of the dishes at the hotel, and then we brought it to the site.
Okay.
So we had to be there because the lunch itself was after 10 o'clock, between I think
okay.
10:30 or something, right?
Okay.
But the ladies came at 9 o'clock to go around Taman
Okay.
Mini to
Yeah.
see everything. So we had to be there because the Presidential Security Force, they closed everything by 6 o'clock. So we had to be there like 3 o'clock in the morning.
3 o'clock in the
So
morning.
we had to leave at 2,
Okay.
there at 3 o'clock, and then we had to prepare for food security. You know, the things, the dishes for the
Yeah.
President Security Forces to check the lab, right?
Okay.
To check
Lab.
on the food security.
Oh, wow.
So that had been done 3 hours before the actual event, right? So,
Okay.
and then once everything was secure, and then we did the finishing of the dishes,
Yes.
and then you had to work with the service flow. We had to talk with the service, the timing of the event organizers.
Yeah.
They had the timing because there's a program of dance, welcome dance, there's a program of presentations, and
Yeah.
And there the food has to fit in very smoothly, and that
Wow.
was very challenging. And you
Okay.
had to push the people behind so everything was on
Yes.
time, you know.
Yes.
So yeah.
Timing is of the essence.
Yes.
Everything
It's
must
very
be
much of the essence.
impeccable.
Yeah. You cannot be like 1 minute late because everything will be late then,
Yeah.
right? So it has to be on the spot and right, and the food has to be hot, and the food has to be fresh.
Yes.
This all within that timeline, right?
Yes.
Wow.
So was a juggle,
A jungle.
organizational juggle was it, but it was good. It was
How many
really good.
chefs were involved in the preparation for the lunch, for the spouse
Yeah, for the
program?
lunch, because we are not so many. There were only four of us on the prep. Only 4 of us.
Oh, wow.
And then I had a team of 3 chefs and me. Were 4. And then I had also another three chefs that helped us when we dished out. Right, 3-4 chefs that dished out. So we had enough people to help to dish it out. Right.
Okay.
So it can be everything managed on time. You know?
Okay.
So yeah, and but when you ask me how many people were really involved, a lot, because you had the stewarding people from the hotel taking care of the chinaware, the silverware, right?
Yes.
And then the service people bring the food to the place.
Okay.
And then you had the food security
Yes.
of the Presidential Security Force. They were also there, very important to make sure that everything is in order from a food safety point of view, right? So.
Okay, I can only imagine how
Yeah.
hectic it was, and
Yes.
Chef Degan luckily was there to control all the chaos and to deliver a memorable lunch for the first ladies and the
Yes.
heads of delegates there at the spouse program. Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit more, of
Yes.
course, with Chef Degan, but now we're gonna take a little break. But don't go anywhere. Starting Point. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Starting Point on TVRI World. Still with me, Siska Becker, my partner Narendra Pawaka, and
me.
our guest, Chef Degan Septoaji, who just shared some intense behind-the-scenes stories off camera just now.
It's a jungle, he said. It's a jungle. And previously he mentioned about 4 chefs working.
Yeah.
Now we would like to know, Chef Degan, the job desk for each chef. What do they do back then?
Okay.
in the lunch program.
That's a good question, actually. Yeah. Usually, my job is to design the menus
Okay.
and work out the logistic of everything, right? Together, we would do the market list, what everybody needs and what to prepare. And then everybody has their own job. One is just doing for the appetizers,
Okay.
all the cutting, the cutting and all the things for the appetizer. One is only for pastry. She was doing just the pastries because everything had to be done fresh, because
Yes.
we cannot use like
Nothing is
ready
prepackaged.
coconut milk. You cannot use. You have
cannot
to
use
make your own coconut milk. Everything fresh, right?
Okay.
And then one was for the hot items, like
items.
there's some hot items that needs to be done. She was doing it.
Yes.
And some technical things I would do, for example, for the consomme, for the soup, to clarify it, you need to use cooking techniques, French cooking techniques. I would do these things, right? So then you still have to work as a team. That doesn't work, otherwise. Yeah.
Wow. And at the end, you delivered and presented.
Yes,
with
yes. Of course, in the beginning we had some hiccups, In the
Okay.
beginning you start and you're not happy with the presentation, you change again, you try again,
Okay.
You add something else to enhance, for example, the texture of the dish, right? And until maybe we tried 5-6 times until we got it the way we want it, right?
Okay. Wow.
And then we...
Okay.
After a while, it becomes like clockwork.
Yes.
If
Clockwork.
everybody knows what to do,
Yeah.
nothing needs to be said, and then it just goes like clockwork. Everybody
just
knows
like
what to do.
muscle memory.
Exactly.
You
We
just
just
go.
say, okay, now we start, and then everybody knows what to do. One takes the plate, the other
Okay.
one preps the appetizer, one's ready with the sauces,
Yes.
with the garnish
Okay.
and all this, right? So-
Wow.
Right.
Thank
Okay.
you
Like
for
an
sharing that.
ensemble, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly,
ensemble.
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just curious when you talk about delivering authentic Indonesian flavors
Yes.
to the spouses programs lunch.
Yes.
Now, as we know, when it comes to food, Indonesia is very rich
Yes. Yes.
in terms of flavors. There's a lot of bumbu, as we say it.
Yes.
Now, do you deliver that kind of exact level of, medokness
Yes.
in the food,
Medokness, yes.
or do you decrease it a bit just to make it, palatable
Yes.
for everyone attending?
Yes, that's a good question, because you need to understand your customers. Basically,
Yeah.
the ladies were the customers, right? We need to understand, you read the directory restriction, what they have.
Yeah.
There were like 2 or 3 said that they didn't want to have it spicy. They cannot have it spicy,
Okay.
which
Okay.
means not too spicy,
Okay.
right? So we have to tone that down. But in Indonesian food, when you take away a little bit of spiciness, you
Yeah.
can still keep it original, right?
Yeah.
Because like shallots, garlic.
Yeah.
It's not spicy.
Yeah,
but
and-
that's
but
a
they're
part-
flavorful.
That's flavorful, and that's a
Yeah.
part of the bumbu, right?
Okay.
And you can take chilies. You can choose which chilies you're going to use because some are more spicier, some are
Yeah.
less. If you take out the seeds, it become even less spices,
Yeah.
and you still get the color, right?
Okay.
A bit of the flavor.
Yeah,
right?
a
So
bit
you
of a
have-
kick, a bit of a kick, but not too much.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, you still have a kick, but
Yeah.
not too much, right? So
Okay.
you have to juggle that, right?
Okay.
So we did that basically, and but you're very surprised these days. Is a lot of people. I've done food promotion abroad, right?
Okay. Yes.
And I've tried to do what you said. I
Yeah.
tried to make it to their palate. right?
Okay.
And friends of mine, the chefs that that was working with me at that time in Germany,
Yeah.
he was telling me, why don't you do it like you do it at home? Because when I tried it in your place, it was very nice and very original. You will be surprised because a lot of people these days,
Yeah.
they've traveled the world.
Yeah.
They've come to Indonesia,
okay.
especially, right?
Yeah.
They've tried our cuisine.
Yes.
And not only our cuisine, like they go all over the world. People try, and through social media these days,
Yes.
everybody wants to know about food, the
true.
original
Yeah.
flavors, right?
True.
So
Okay.
then I did it original, and everybody liked it. And like
okay.
30 years ago was different because
Yeah.
it was too spicy for people, too
Yes.
strong, and all this.
Yes.
But these days, you'll be
No.
very surprised.
Wow.
It
Okay.
changed. The palate of everyone in the world became global now. You
That's
know?
great to
Which is very
hear.
good.
Yeah.
Does this mean it is the perfect time for Indonesian cuisine to finally take its rightful
It's
place?
the right
It
time.
is the right
That's
time.
what we have to do.
You've been
right?
saying this actually in a lot of interviews that
Yeah.
Indonesian food actually have a lot of potential,
Yes.
to be among them. We hear about Japanese food, Thai food, making its international
Yes.
circus all over, but Indonesian food not yet. Could this be the moment that propel
I think
our cuisine?
it is the moment because
Yeah.
you see, you can see also Indonesia is now seen in the world as a strong power. You
Yeah.
know, we set standards now,
Standards.
right? And which is good, especially in Asia, right?
Okay.
And I think it's now the time where we need to be bold and go out. We need to have platforms where we can
Okay.
display and provide Indonesian food. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what we lack with other countries like Japanese food, Thai,
Yeah.
and
Even Vietnamese food.
Vietnamese food,
Yeah.
Korean food, right?
Yes, indeed.
They use a lot of platform where they display their food,
okay.
whether it's in social media, whether
Yeah.
it's in restaurants around the world,
Yeah.
Yes.
or whether it's in
TV series.
TV series. You know,
true.
that's
Yes.
something maybe we have to think when we have
Yeah.
Indonesian movies that there's a part where
Yeah.
food is involved in
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
right? For people to want to know what is that, you
Yeah.
know, and wanted to try, right? You know, you can always say that Indonesian food is good, but it is only good until you try it,
Yes,
right?
true.
And we need to have this platform where people can try it, right?
Yes.
And I've worked many years in different countries. I worked in Thailand many years. I worked in other countries many years. And when you go in Thailand, I have not found many Indonesian restaurants. Very little.
That's true.
Compared to Indonesian restaurants,
Yeah.
Thai restaurants that are
Here
in
in
Bangkok.
Indonesia. In Jakarta.
For example,
Yeah.
right? I worked in Bangkok. Very little
Yeah.
Indonesian
Indonesian.
restaurant I found there.
That's
But you go to Jakarta, how many Thai restaurants
Yes.
are there here, right? So we need a platform like that. We need a platform where Indonesian food can go abroad, can be accessible to everyone, you know?
Okay.
Because from my experience, I've done many Indonesian promotions and they were always successful because of the flavors that we have. People are very interested into it.
Okay.
And you know, our Indonesian food is not as spicy as Thai, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not as strong as Thai, even though Thai food is very nice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a different
Yeah, different flavor
palate.
profiles.
It's a different,
yeah.
different profile of palate and
Yeah.
taste and flavors. And you'll be very interested to see that a lot of people love it, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not that strong, it's
Mm.
bold and round.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's balanced.
it's balanced.
Yeah.
Balance.
And it also fits very much with a lot of wine pairing in the West.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes. And that's
Okay.
why people love it, you know, actually. So,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of potential. I think it's now the time for us to
Okay.
go to the world.
It's very encouraging to hear those positive responses you
Yes,
had about
yes,
Indonesian food.
yes,
But in
yes.
particular, how about the spouses in the spouse program? Did you get any response for that
Yes.
That-
particular lunch?
Can you
That
spill
you
some of
prepared.
that?
You know, as a chef, you're in the back. You don't see
Yeah.
these things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
When they eat, you don't know what's going on in front, right?
Yeah.
So you only see when the plates come back. So you look at the plates, oh, empty. And then, oh, this is empty.
okay.
And then the organizers came to me, chef, almost all the plates are eaten empty. That's a good sign. You know,
Yes,
that's a good
that's a
sign.
good sign.
And then I heard from one of the PAs of Ibu Iriana.
Yeah.
Okay.
He mentioned, because he was serving her, and he mentioned that the food was good and
Oh, okay.
looked very nice
Yes.
to present to the ladies. So
Okay.
Happy. So that's how you know.
yes, that's how
Yeah.
we know. It's mostly also in restaurants we check on the plates that come back usually. When you see the plates are full, untouched, then something wrong with our food. Yeah, but luckily everything was eaten, so
Eaten.
it's great.
Okay.
Nice to know. Alrighty. So before we head on to the next talk, let's just see the menu for the lunch in day one, where Indonesia has just hosted the 43rd ASEAN Summit and its related summits. Now, the event, which went well and finished last week, also included a lunch for the state leaders and spouse program with authentic Indonesian menus. Now, this is the menus of the spouse program, which took place at Taman Mini Indonesia Indah. Here it is. So that is the four courses of the spouse program,
Exactly,
is it?
exactly.
From the appetizer until the dessert.
That made me hungry, Eda.
It is. Haven't had breakfast
Yes,
yet?
yes. I would love to have some baramundi with dabu-dabu salsa
Dabu-dabu sauce.
now. That sounds amazing.
Yes.
How did you decide on which protein to choose? Why baramundi, Chef?
Yeah.
Because it's a local fish. So we wanted to go. We also looked at the dietary restriction. I
Yeah.
see that one of the ladies didn't want to have salmon, cannot eat salmon or cannot eat salmon.
okay.
Okay.
And anyway, salmon is a imported fish.
Yeah.
So then I was thinking we need to find a local fish that is fresh, nice, and fits to everyone's palate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we decided to do baramundi.
Okay.
Kakap putih.
Kakap putih,
yes.
kakap putih.
And when you have the small ones, the flesh is very nice,
Yes.
Okay.
firm and refreshing, right?
Okay.
And tender at the same time. So we pan-sear it very quickly. So it was very fresh last minute before we served it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was it fits very good. You know, I mean ikan bakar, you know, and,
Yes.
and dabu-dabu. It's
Dabu-dabu.
always
Yeah,
it's
it's
always a
always
winner,
good.
right?
As a winner, yes.
And that's what we served, and it was very light. Reminds a little bit of the Mexican salsa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was refreshing, right?
Okay.
And then we use, of course, kemangi, which is very refreshing as well,
Yes.
and has a lot of fragrance, right?
Yeah.
So it keeps everything very Indonesian.
Okay.
Before you check on the dietary of the spouses, chef,
Yeah.
have you think about previously what to cook
Yes.
beforehand?
I did.
Oh, and what are those? Can you
I
spill
was
that?
thinking first I want to do a main course. I want to do a salmon lodeh, you know,
Salmon
something like that
lodeh.
because salmon is also nice, right?
Yeah, yes.
And then lodeh is also very Indonesian,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But then I looked at the dietary restriction. No, this person cannot eat santan. This person doesn't want to have salmon,
So
right?
cross out Padang
Cross out,
food,
cross out.
cross
Then
out
you had
soto
to
Betawi.
rethink. Yeah.
Rethink.
We had to rethink again.
And then why you decided on the sop buntut consomme option?
Yeah, that's because I've seen that there are some ladies that have written down they prefer to have beef. There's
Okay.
another lady that prefer to have beef and prefer to have beef.
Okay.
Because in the beginning I thought maybe beef is too much for lunch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then if it's a consomme, maybe it's not too heavy.
Then it's
So what-
still light.
Yeah, so what we did is we did a sop buntut,
Okay.
then we clarify the broth so it's very clear
Okay.
and very nice looking.
Yeah.
And then we take the meat of the buntut,
Yeah.
of the oxtail,
Yeah.
Yes.
we cut it into cubes, we
Okay.
put it into a skin, you know, like a gyoza. When you have a
Yeah,
gyoza,
yeah,
the
yeah.
skin of a
Okay.
gyoza,
Skin, yeah.
you put in a skin nicely,
Yes.
very nice and small,
Yeah.
with the vegetables in there.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you have the potatoes. So buntut has potatoes and tomatoes.
Yeah.
We had it underneath, and we put it there. And then the soup was poured in front of the ladies.
Okay.
So
Oh, nice.
looks very attractive,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
nice,
yeah.
very
So
elegant. right?
Presentation-wise, there's also
Exactly.
something to do for the ladies
Exactly.
as well.
Flavor-wise, you have the buntut, still the oxtail inside
Okay.
the gyoza skin,
gyoza
right?
skin.
But then it's a gyoza skin, you know. You have also a Japanese, the wife of the Japanese
that's
prime minister there, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a gyoza skin. You have a little bit connection because it's ASEAN.
It's ASEAN.
Yeah.
The same went with the appetizer. The appetizer we did a urap, which we wrapped into rice paper. It looked like
Vietnamese dish.
rice paper
spring
roll,
roll,
but
yeah.
inside was a sayur urap.
Oh.
So I connected also the ASEAN
Looks.
Yeah.
looks. So it
Yeah.
is people. Oh, this is like a
Yeah.
spring roll, right?
Spring roll,
Like
yeah.
Vietnamese
A
spring
bit of
roll.
fusion
Exactly.
between.
But still, all the flavors are very Indonesian.
That is the
okay.
twist right there, Siska.
That's a twist right
Yes,
there.
Indonesian
indeed.
twist. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, when we see reality shows of cooking,
Yes.
usually we see all these moments
Yes.
behind the scenes when there's this certain boiling points, you know, when certain dishes are really hard to make, or you know, there's some particular techniques that needs to be used and needs to be precise each time, and then
Yes.
you don't get it,
Yes.
and then it wrecks the whole ensemble. Can you share us a little bit of those behind the scenes stories, Chef?
If there is any.
If there was any. What was the hardest part of the whole lunch?
I think the hardest part was sending everything on time. That was the hardest part.
Timing, so
yes,
timing
timing.
was-
Because we were given a time slot. Okay, you have to send it out by this time. Okay. For the appetizer, you had to make the second course right away because it takes a short time for them to eat, right?
Yes.
And then the service staff came back
Okay.
and they bring right away the soup. So the service flow was like this, where there were two people. One is serving the food, and the other one would clear up. You say always two people, so you have only one time go.
Okay.
Not like when you do a normal service would be the same waiter would go there, bring
Yeah.
the food,
And
and,
then
then he
take
comes
it
back
back.
later, he clears up. But
Yeah.
here it is one go. So you had only 4 courses, only four times going
Okay.
to the guests.
And because of the addition of that one course, it needs to be even quicker
Exactly.
and more precise.
Exactly, and then you have to be ready with your food, right? You
Yes.
cannot do it last minute. But yet, if you do it too long in advance, the
Okay.
quality of the food will go down. So that was like the crunch time of it, right? I had to
okay.
push that it's on
Wow.
time, and then
Yeah.
I had to make sure that they don't hold the food too long, otherwise it gets cold in their hand.
Okay.
So it was like, that was for me the crunch time, right? And the
Amazing.
dessert was designed where you had like the Degan on a nice glass bowl.
Okay.
There was a plate below, and we had like dry ice inside. So last minute we poured hot water. So you have all this
You have this drama
this
effect.
drama of you know, the dry,
dry
ice,
ice.
steam going up and
Yeah.
like this, and you have to do it very last minute before they walk out. Otherwise, the effect is gone when you do
Yes.
it too early. So when
Totally.
by the time it goes to the table and the effect is gone,
Yeah.
and then it's not nice.
Yeah.
So you have to have it right
Yeah.
last minute. So it was everything very last minute,
Wow.
and the pressure was there. The pressure was like 15 minutes pressure, you
Yeah.
know.
15 minutes
and
pressure.
that was it.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, every experience is a lesson, is what
Yeah.
they say.
Yes,
What do you think is the biggest lesson for you personally from you conducting this special program for the spouses at the ASEAN Summit?
I think my lessons here was for me to realize that there's a lot of young talents in Indonesia that that are very passionate about Indonesian food, like we see in the spouse lunch, the gala dinner, for
Yes.
example. Yeah, there's many great chefs there, young chefs, and they are basically the next chefs that are bringing Indonesia to the next level. And I'm happy to see that. That was a lesson for me, and to realizing, oh wow, there are a lot of great talents here. We have a lot of great talents on board, and you could see that they all brought their passion onto the plate,
Okay.
and they brought up the Indonesian to the next level, and that's where we can shine actually in the world. And we
Okay.
can say now proudly, hey,
Yeah.
we have something to show, right? It's beautiful.
Okay.
And that's happy for me.
Maybe last, before we let you go, Chef, your hopes and wishes for Indonesian culinary scene,
Yes.
and especially for those young chefs, those
Yeah.
young talents out there waiting to make their mark
Yes.
on the international scene.
Yes, first for the young chefs, I would say it is very important that we as chefs know Indonesian food. We
Okay.
should embrace it, we should learn it, at least the
Okay.
basics. It's very embarrassing when you're somewhere abroad and somebody asks you, where you're from? I'm from Indonesia. Okay, can you cook me something? Indonesian? And I cannot do it. You know, that's
Yeah.
very embarrassing.
Yeah.
We should be able to
Yeah.
at least do some Indonesian dishes,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
That's one. And two, I think Indonesian food is there to be embraced globally,
Globally.
right? And I hope that what we have done and what has done this time opens the door for Indonesian cuisine to go abroad
Okay.
and to make a statement, and us provided also a platform where Indonesian food can shine, I think, right? It was shown that we have the talents, right? We have the resources, right? And we have the cuisine. And you know, culinary diplomacy is one of the best diplomacy.
I
You
love
know,
that. Culinary diplomacy.
eat, they're happy, everything works better, right?
Ah, that's the best way to get to someone's heart.
Yes.
Through the,
Exactly.
yeah,
For
through
your
the
tummy.
tummy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So thank you for the beautiful chat, Chef
Yeah.
Degan.
Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you very
welcome.
much.
Yes.
It's our pleasure. Thank you, Chef. All the best for
Thank
your
you.
future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
And promoting Indonesian food.
Thank you.
Oh, that was amazing.
That was
Eda.
amazing,
We
Siska.
learned a lot, right?
Yes, and we are starving.
Yes,
So
indeed.
coming up, we got more news on Starting Point. Stay tuned here with us.